All right, so we will wrap up the chapter by talking about supply shifts, and then the rest of it I'll put out as videos on an announcement, and we won't have class on Friday. I'll just see you guys on Monday. So we've got a supply curve that is upward sloping. And we've got 4 explicit shifters that we are told about. And then we have one that is an obvious one that we'll talk about that the book doesn't mention, but I kind of need to tell you about it because I alluded to it in the previous video, right? In the previous notes. So the first one that we have is one that we're all familiar with here, right? Natural conditions. If it rains, ranchers out here make money. If it doesn't rain and they have to buy all their feed, they don't really make that much money. Natural conditions are huge. If you're trying to run a ski resort and there's no snow, you're going to pay a bunch of money to get snow that's not very good, and you're not going to sell as many tickets, and you're going to have higher costs. If you're running a wedding venue in the summer and it is rainy and cloudy and there's hail and all sorts of stuff like that, right? Also not good. So natural conditions impact not just our food base, but also a lot of our recreational kind of things, right? So natural conditions, obviously, if something is happening that is, a negative, if there's hail, if there's not snow production when there should be, if there's snow production but there shouldn't be, right? All that kind of stuff. If there's negative impacts, that's going to shift supply in. But again, these are contextual. It can't just be like, oh, if it rains or if it snows, it's a supply shift in. It's about where is it raining or snowing, and is it supposed to be raining or snowing for what the activity is that they're trying to do. And then obviously if you have, a year where it's just gangbusters and, there's so much precipitation both for farmers and for, mountains and stuff like that, right? You're going to get a supply shift outwards. You're just going to be able to offer more days on the slope, right? So you'll be able to open longer because of the fact that you had a particularly precipitous winter, right? A very snowy winter. So that's our first supply shifter. Our second supply shifter is our input prices. So our input prices. So one of the things that we assumed constant was our input prices, right? And so if our input prices increase, then we're going to end up shifting our supply curve to the left. And if our input prices decrease, well, we're going to shift our supply curve to the right. Yeah, you guys can't see that. Can't use purple. Shows up great on the screen here. All right, our third one we'll talk about is technology. So really, if there's technological improvement where now we're able to do things faster with less error and stuff like that, right? Then that means that there's an improvement in technology. So supply is going to shift outwards. Obviously, if there's some sort of technology that's lost, or if it's outlawed, right? Like maybe we figure out that making screens the way we make them currently, gives the workers, finger cancer or something like that, right? Then, it might get banned internationally. And so we might have a decrease in the technology for making our smartphones and stuff like that because of the human working conditions impact, right? All right, our fifth factor, speaking of that, dovetailing quite nicely, is our government policies. Actually, let's get rid of... No. Dang it. One too many. Government policies. And so government policies, we usually just stick to things that are taxes or subsidies. Taxes make it more expensive to do something. Subsidies is when the government actually pays you to produce something, right? So if there's an increase in taxes or a decrease in the subsidies, we have a supply shift to the left. And if there's a decrease in taxes or an increase in subsidies, we have a supply shift to the right. And then the last one, which again, the book doesn't mention, but I got to mention it because I talked about it and about the apartment complexes that are coming online, right? There's going to be 88 new apartments that are coming online, single bedroom and 2 bedrooms, like under 1,000. They accept pets, right? It's going to be great. And the city council was very opposed to it because the city council is primarily composed of landowners that rent their extra land and houses to students and don't want the equilibrium rental rate, right, to go down. And so they don't want the competition, because what happens when there's extra competition, right? So this is going to be our, come on, eraser, do what I say when I say it. So this is number of sellers. So when there's an increase in the number of sellers, like there's going to be with these apartments that are coming online, that's going to shift the supply curve to the right, which means that at any given price level, we're going to get more apartments available. Or the other way to think about it, so that's the horizontal interpretation, right, which we've been sticking to, because at the end of the day, it is price that is driving our quantity and not the other way around. However, we can always flip it and do a vertical interpretation and say that, oh, because of the fact that, and again, the way that I drew these is, far too large, right? It's probably going to be something that's a much smaller shift. But if we have an increase in the number of sellers and there is a shift to the right, and we use this horizontal interpretation, that means vertical interpretation, sorry, that means that the equilibrium price would go from, maybe $750 a month or something like that for a 2-bedroom apartment to, $550 a month perhaps, right? So there's going to be some kind of price action that's a result of the extra sellers entering the market. Obviously, if there's a decrease in the number of sellers, if we had a building inspector that came in and did a thorough sweep of all the houses, probably would take 10% of these 100-year-old houses off the market and be like, nah, you can't have people live here, right? That would be a decrease in the number of sellers. And so then that would shift our supply to the left. Questions on our supply shifts? Okay. I will be sending out a playlist that's got some videos that discusses some supply shifts and demand shifts in equilibrium. So watch those, and we'll go over them first thing on Monday morning.